Good afternoon. My name is Dan Scripps, Chair of the Michigan Public Service Commission, and I call this meeting of the Commission to order on May 12th, 2022 at 1 o'clock p.m. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Chair Scripps.
Present.
Commissioner Phillips.
Present.
Commissioner Perrottet. Present. Mr. Chair, you have a quorum.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Today's meeting is being held in person at the Commission's office at 7109 West Saginaw Highway in Lansing, Michigan. We're also hosting this meeting remotely using Microsoft Live Event. It is compatible with all browsers except Safari. Telephone relay service is available through the phone option. If you are participating via the live stream, you may also turn on the live captions by clicking on the closed caption or CC button in the lower right corner of the screen. As indicated in the notice for today's meeting, if we lose the remote connection, the Commission will not recess. The meeting will be recorded and available for future reference on the Commission's website. In addition, the Commissioners can receive comment via MPSC_commissioners@michigan.gov. For reference, this email is also included in the Q&A feature on the live stream event on your computer and in the meeting notice. We will have an opportunity for the public to make comment as provided in the agenda. A few notes about this. Comments should be limited to one per person and can be made verbally in person or by calling in or in writing via the live stream Q&A feature. If you are participating via Teams application, you can use the Q&A feature and type your comments in the box anytime during our meeting, and we will have those queued up to read. The Q&A function should be used to submit public comments to the Commission. If you would like to make verbal comments, you must do so either in person or by calling into the meeting by phone. And to minimize disruptions, attendees participating by phone will be muted until we reach the time for public comment. The first order of business is approval of the agenda for today's meeting. Commissioner Phillips.
Thank you, Chair. I move for approval of the agenda for today's Commission meeting.
I second the motion.
Is there any discussion? We will now have a vote on the motion to approve today's agenda. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries by unanimous vote. The agenda is approved. The next item of business on the agenda is approval of the minutes from the April 25th, 2022 Commission meeting.
I move for approval of the minutes from the April 25th, 2022 Commission meeting.
I second the motion.
Is there any discussion? We'll now have a vote on the motion to approve the minutes from the April 25th, 2022 Commission meeting. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries by unanimous vote. The Commission meeting minutes of April 25th, 2022 are approved. The next item of business on the agenda is the approval of orders and minute actions on the consent agenda, and today the Commission is assisted by Staff Attorney Barb Kunkel. I recognize Ms. Kunkel.
Good afternoon. Today's consent agenda consists of 8 communications matters, 3 electric matters, and 1 gas matter. The proposed orders and minute actions for these matters have been thoroughly vetted by the Commission's technical and legal staff and are ready for your approval.
I move for the approval of the orders and minute actions on the consent agenda.
Second the motion.
Is there any discussion? We will now have a vote on the motion to approve the orders and minute actions on the consent agenda. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries by a unanimous vote. The orders and minute actions on the consent agenda are approved. I recognize Ms. Kunkel.
Item 4A1 is case number U-20084, which involves an application filed by DTE Electric Company and DTE Gas Company to close the docket in this case. The order before you grants the application and closes the docket in case number U-20084.
I move for the approval of the order in case number U-20084.
I second the motion.
Is there any discussion? We will now have a vote on the motion to approve the order. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries by a unanimous vote. The order in case number U-20084 is approved. Ms. Kunkel.
Item 4A2 is case number U-20300, which involves an application filed by Alpena Power Company for approval of an agreement with Wolverine Power Supply Cooperative, Inc. for the extended purchase of capacity and for an amendment to the electric utilities current integrated resource plan. The order before you approves the agreement but finds the requested amendment unnecessary as set forth in the order.
Thank you, Ms. Kunkel. I move for the approval of the order in case number U-20300.
I second the motion.
Is there any discussion? We will now have a vote on the motion to approve the order. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries by a unanimous vote. The order in case number U-20300 is approved. I recognize Ms. Kunkel.
Item 4A3 is case number U-20890, which involves a matter on the Commission's own motion to promulgate rules governing electric interconnection and distribution generation and to rescind legacy net metering rules. The order before you grants the petition for rehearing filed by Consumers Energy Company and DTE Electric Company and provides that a future second opportunity for public comment on the proposed rules will be announced.
I move for the approval of the order in case number U-20890.
I second the motion.
Is there any discussion?
Yeah, I'd like to just briefly note that I appreciate the careful feedback that we received on the interconnection rule set and look forward to additional comments from the parties. It's important that we get this right, and I value everyone's time and effort in continuing to work through this process.
Commissioner Pertic, any further discussion? We'll now have a vote on the motion to approve the order. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries by a unanimous vote. The order in case number U-20890 is approved. Recognize Ms. Kunkel.
Item 4A4 is case number U-21081, which involves an application filed by Upper Michigan Energy Resources Corporation for approval of its integrated resource plan pursuant to MCL 460.6T. Staff member Kayla Gibbs will describe this order.
Good afternoon, Chair Scripps and Commissioner Phillips and Pertic. My name is Kayla Gibbs, and I'm a departmental analyst in the Resource Optimization and Certification section in the Resource Energy Division. The order before you in case number U-21081 is in the matter of Upper Michigan Energy Resource Corporation of its Integrated Resource Plan, or IRP, pursuant to the MCL 460.6T and other relief. Upper Michigan Energy Resource Corporation, or UMERC, filed its application with the Commission on October 15, 2021. In its filing, UMERC established a proposed course of action, or PCA, for its IRP application, which included the use and continued maintenance of the 10 reciprocating internal combustion engine units, also known as RICE units, that were approved in case number U-18224. The RICE units supply a total capacity of 183 megawatts, which sufficiently covers the capacity needs of UMERC's customers. As part of the company's PCA, it proposed to add 100 megawatts of solar generation and continue energy waste reduction and demand reduction programs. This would reduce air emissions from the generating portfolio, diversify the company's generation portfolio, and displace high-cost market energy purchases. The application also proposed to adopt an avoided energy cost based on the MISO locational marginal price for the company's load. This proposal would result in just and reasonable customer rates and avoid situations where the company would pay more than the avoided cost of purchase. On February 11th, 2022, Civion LLC, the Michigan Public Service Commission staff, and the Department of Attorney General filed testimony relating to the company's IRP application. All parties discussed the case and negotiated the terms of the settlement agreement. Settlement was reached by all on April 12, 2022. The settlement agreement states that UMERC's annual energy waste reduction goal of 1.5% for the next 3 years, exclusive of all Tilden Mine and self-direct customers, is reasonable and prudent. UMERC will evaluate and have discussion with staff about the potential of adhering to the competitive procurement guidance and Commission's September 9th, 2021 order in case number U-20852, or as subsequently modified for future resource procurement. UMERC agrees to incorporate staff's recommendations in this filing into its next IRP. Recommendations include energy waste reduction sensitivities, evaluate demand response modeling, investigate ways to increase energy waste reduction, perform a more robust risk assessment, provide additional transmission analysis, evaluate the benefit of energy storage, and provide additional opportunity for public comment. UMERC's next avoided cost filing should be filed concurrently with the company's next IRP filing, and that it should continue to use the current avoided cost methodology. UMERC will revise its PG2M tariff to make a full avoided cost in the schedule of annual avoided cost amounts available to QS with generation design capacity at or below 150 kilowatts, and will file an energy-only contract for use with its PG2M tariff, PG3M tariff, and PG4M tariff. UMERC will not have capacity needs during the 5-year planning horizon and will have no PURPA capacity needs as long as it follows its PCA. The order before you approves the settlement agreement. The order also directs the company to file a revised tariff sheet in accordance with paragraph 24 of the settlement agreement and to file its next IRP by May 12th of 2027.
Thank you, Ms. Gibbs, and congratulations once again on the Employee Service Recognition Award that you received earlier this morning. I move for the approval of the order in case number U-21081.
I second the motion.
Before we vote on this, I just want to raise up a few things that Ms. Gibbs covered. First of all, kudos to the parties, the Upper Michigan Energy Resources Corporation, Attorney General Nessel, the Citizens Utility Board, Savion, and of course the Michigan Public Service Commission staff for their work in reaching what I think is a forward-looking settlement proposal. Includes 100 megawatts of solar, 1.5% energy waste reduction exclusive of Tilden and other customers who self-direct their own energy waste reduction programs. Looking at this, I think the combination of resources provides valuable diversity to the Upper Peninsula's energy mix and a hedge against increasing natural gas prices while continuing to utilize the 10 RICE units that Ms. Gibbs described. I think it adds to our resource adequacy in the Upper Peninsula and ultimately is a win not only for the customers of UMERC, but also for customers across the Upper Peninsula. I appreciate the work of the parties involved in reaching this settlement. Is there any further discussion? We'll now have a vote on the motion to approve the order. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries by unanimous vote. The order in case number U-21081 is approved. Recognize Ms. Kunkel.
Item 4A5 is case number U-21117, which involves a matter on the Commission's own motion, commencing a collaborative addressing the development of electric utility interconnection procedures. The order before you cancels the May 17th, 2022 stakeholder meeting and provides that future stakeholder meetings will be announced on the My Power Grid Interconnection Standards and Worker Safety website.
I move for the approval of the order in case number U-21117.
I second the motion.
Is there any discussion? We will now have a vote on the motion to approve the order. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries by unanimous vote. The order in case number U-21117 is approved. I recognize Ms. Kunkel.
Item 4A6 is case number U-21130, which involves an application filed by Upper Michigan Energy Resource Corporation to establish objective and reasonable criteria for the company's determination of a legally enforceable obligation for qualifying facilities pursuant to the Public Utility Regulatory Policies Act of 1978, 16 U.S.C. 2601 et sequential. The order before you approves a settlement agreement that resolves all issues in the case.
I move for the approval of the order in case number U-21130.
I second the motion.
Is there any discussion? We'll now have a vote on the motion to approve the order. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries by unanimous vote. The order in case number U-21130 is approved. I recognize Ms. Kunkel.
Item 4A7 is case number U-21227, which involves a matter on the Commission's own motion to initiate a comment period regarding the funding and assistance opportunities available to public utilities pursuant to the Federal Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. The order before you sets deadlines for filing comments as described in this order.
I move for the approval of the order in case number U-21227.
I second the motion.
Is there any discussion?
I do have very brief comments to make, and I know we'll hear a lot more about the opportunities within the IIJA that are applicable to the Commission later on this afternoon. But the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, as we all know, but I think requires some further emphasis and reiteration, is the impetus for a historic level of federal investment in our nation's infrastructure. And such a significant investment will require an equally historic response from state and local public agencies, as well as the private sector in Michigan, to not only comprehensively assess and pursue these resources, but also ensure that these funds are deployed and maximize the financial as well as the societal impacts for residents in our great state. The programs now being created and made available through the Department of Energy and many other federal agencies will have multi-generational impacts on our environment, our climate, our built infrastructure, as well as our communities. So I encourage all of us to keep the gravity of these opportunities in mind, and we thank in advance the stakeholders and regulated entities for their thorough responses and insights, as well as guidance filed via comments in this docket. Thank you.
Commissioner Phillips, any additional discussion?
I'd just briefly like to thank the Attorney General and the Citizens Utility Board for their joint letter in bringing this opportunity to the forefront. And I look forward to seeing what's possible for infrastructure funding for our state. And I'm particularly excited to hear from Kate Gordon, the Senior Advisor to Energy Secretary Jennifer Granholm, who'll be presenting on the opportunities available from the Department of Energy later in this meeting.
Great. Thank you, Commissioner Paratek. We will now have a vote on the motion to approve the order. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries by a unanimous vote. The order in case number U-21227 is approved. I recognize Ms. Kunkel.
Item 4B1 is case number U-21194, which involves a joint application filed by Detroit Thermal LLC and Cartier Energy LLC to transfer control of Detroit Thermal LLC to Cartier Energy LLC. The order before you approves the settlement agreement resolving all issues in the case.
Thank you, Ms. Kunkel. I move for the approval of the order in case number U-21194.
I second the motion.
Before we vote on this, I just very briefly want to thank staff and Cartier Energy as well as Detroit Thermal for their work in reaching this settlement. It's always exciting to see new investment both in the city of Detroit and in the state of Michigan. We welcome Cartier Energy to Michigan and look forward to seeing their success going forward. Any further discussion? We will now have a vote on the motion to approve the order. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries by unanimous vote. The order in case number U-21194 is approved. I recognize Ms. Kunkel.
Item 4B2 is case number U-21220, which involves an application filed by Detroit Thermal LLC for ex parte approval of a steam sales agreement for the supply of steam between Detroit Thermal LLC and the state of Michigan. The order before you approves the steam sale agreement.
I move for the approval of the order in case number U-21220.
I second the motion.
Is there any discussion? We'll now have a vote on the motion to approve the order. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries by unanimous vote. The order in case number U-21220 is approved. Item 5 on the agenda is a presentation on the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act by the U.S. Department of Energy, specifically Kate Gordon, the Senior Advisor to Secretary Jennifer Granholm. And Commissioner Paratek, do you want to introduce Ms. Gordon?
Absolutely. I'd be pleased to introduce Kate Gordon, who, as the chair just mentioned, is the Senior Advisor to Secretary Jennifer Granholm. Kate has spent the past 2 decades working at the intersection of climate change, energy policy, and economic development, and is currently spearheading efforts at the Department of Energy to implement the funding made available by the Federal Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. Kate will describe the funding available to the state of Michigan and to the energy and telecommunications utilities that we regulate.
Kate, we're thrilled to have you here.
Thank you so much. And I can see you're all looking up to your right. I hope I'm not a giant picture on a screen, but I bet I am. So it's wonderful to see you.
Pictures, not 4 screens.
Perfect. Luckily, I'm going to go to slides in just a minute so you can stop looking at me. But it's really an honor to be here. Thank you for your public service and for everything you're doing in the great state of Michigan, which is second only to the great state of Wisconsin, where I'm from in my mind. So let me put up my slides. Give me just a minute. Window. Okay, hold on. All right, can you see those?
We can, yes.
Perfect. Okay. I'm going to do a very quick tour through the opportunities available for Michigan under the bipartisan infrastructure law, which we call BIL or bill. Many people call EJA or IJA for its official name. This will be fast. I did want to say that the slides that I'm using, which have much more detail on them, will be available to you, to those listening. So don't worry if I blow through a little bit quickly, you will be able to see these. So this is a really significant opportunity for the country, for Michigan, for the Department of Energy. This bill provides $1.3 trillion altogether across multiple agencies for infrastructure projects, with $62 billion of that going to the Department of Energy. To put that in context, our annual appropriated budget is about $45 billion. So this is larger than our annual budget and includes 60 new programs for DOE and pluses up about 12 additional programs. The size and scope of this bill And also the fact that it really dramatically expands DOE's work into deployment and demonstration projects away from our fundamental role since 1977 of really doing basic science has actually led us to reorganize the entire department. So I put this up just to show our new, what we call S3, but our Undersecretary for Infrastructure office. This is a new office at DOE, a new Undersecretary, and really emphasizes that expansion of our role into those demonstration deployment projects, those real steel in the ground projects. This is exciting for us. It's a historic moment for the agency. And I think for the country that clean energy infrastructure is being seen as part of the overall infrastructure picture in a significant way. So the infrastructure bill on energy does about 4 large buckets of things. I'm going to go into a little more detail on some of these that I know you have interest in or are particularly of interest to the utility sector. The first big area is, and these are mostly existing programs to be clear, expanding access to energy efficiency and clean energy. This is about $5 billion for a number of existing programs that you know well. The Weatherization Assistance Program is a big one, so additional funding there. For the first time, $500 million for energy efficiency and renewable energy in public schools. Very excited about that program and the ability to leverage additional funds through that. And of course, the Energy Efficiency Conservation Block Grant and state energy programs. These primarily, other than the schools program, these are formula dollars that run through the state. So I'll talk more about that in a minute, but wanted to just make that point. I have in the slides detailed breakdowns of each of these programs that, again, you will be able to see when you get the slides, but just showing just the sheer kind of range of programs in that energy efficiency and renewable energy space. And I'll go to the next slide to say that that includes not only the programs I just talked about, but also significant new funding into the supply chain for clean energy. I'm going to talk more about that in a minute, but I really want to emphasize, you know, the president called out supply chains for some critical industries. Semiconductors was one, batteries was another one. Solar was another one. We are doubling down. This bill gives us significant funding across the battery supply chain, and particularly for battery manufacturing and recycling, in which Michigan has a real competitive advantage given the infrastructure you have. Going on to a similar topic, the bill actually not only sort of drives investment in those kinds of manufacturing sectors across supply chains, but also drives quality jobs with a free and fair chance to join a union in those sectors. That is very, very important to this administration. It is captured in the bill. The entire infrastructure bill is covered by prevailing wage law under Davis-Bacon. We are working very hard at DOE to ensure that quality job provisions make it into the non-construction pieces as well. And this is critically important just to making sure that these dollars are actually creating economic prosperity. In addition, we are putting dollars on the table. So again, more than $7 billion across that supply chain for batteries. That's everything from critical minerals and rare earth elements all the way up through battery recycling. So very exciting. Clean hydrogen, a lot of people are paying attention to this. Our loan program office has expanded authority to loan in both the electric vehicle and vehicle supply chain areas, as well as in those critical mineral areas. So it's pretty exciting time. And we're also establishing a significant amount of new infrastructure and workforce development and doing that in concert with the Department of Labor. The third big area, delivering reliable, clean, affordable power to more Americans. This is really the grid part of the puzzle, and this is, I know, of critical interest to all of you. This is a significant amount of our $62 billion, is this $11 billion in grants for grid resilience. And that's resilience in the face of both cyber attacks and also impacts from climate change. So, you know, extreme weather, flooding, wildfire, extreme heat effects, those kinds of impacts we're seeing increasingly across the country. This also includes $2.5 billion for transmission facilitation. Those are those high voltage transmission lines, and smart grids. So going both big and small, looking at long range transmission as well as for smart grids. We will not achieve our goals on climate change or in our new energy economy and energy transition in this country without a significant investment into the grid, and that's what this bill allows us to do. We're also continuing investment in nuclear power. Currently, the one zero carbon kind of baseload power source that underpins a huge amount of our clean energy economy today. This includes $6 billion for the Civilian Nuclear Credit Program to help support plants that and stop premature retirement of existing plants, as well as a new amount for advanced nuclear, which I'll talk about in a minute, and also, of course, hydropower, another baseload net zero power source, more than $700 million in helping those facilities stay open and safe as well. So more on the grid, lots and lots of pieces of that. Many different pieces. Most of these are competitive programs, except for the resilience, the big one, the resilience and reliability one at the top there, which is a formula program to states, tribes, and territories, importantly. I should say, just as a note, that in this section, the piece that's on resiliency, that second piece, we actually do have a prioritization in part to more islanded or isolated areas that are not currently well served by the grid. So that's something to note. Also, this section includes a really interesting $1 billion program, that's the third one down, for energy improvements and energy demonstrations in rural and remote areas. And that's a really interesting program for some of those places that are kind of not in the more urbanized areas, maybe haven't captured some of the benefits of energy economy in the past, but where there is a lot of opportunity across these supply chains. So more on that. There is, you'll see at the end here, also a requirement for utilities to promote the use of demand response. Unfortunately, no funding associated with that, but I did want to note that demand response is something that is called out as a priority in the bill. Transportation and EV infrastructure, another important area for Michigan. This is mostly this money is actually going through the Department of Transportation, not DOE. However, DOE is written into the bill to work directly with DOT on these programs, given the key relationship between, of course, the transportation sector and the grid when we think about electrification. So we have actually established a new joint office on energy and transportation. This is deploying $7.5 billion under the transportation budget of the bill. We have a couple of pieces of that, but our role really is in ensuring that that is done in a way that's very consistent with the build out of the electricity sector, with reliability, with security, making sure we're getting to those rural, disadvantaged, and hard to reach locations that have energy access issues today, and also have a lack of access to electric vehicles. So that's a really exciting new joint office. And there's a number of these provisions are primarily, you can actually tell by the numbers on the side. The ones that start with 4 are in DOE's budget. The ones that start with 2 or 1 are in transportation. Many of these are not in DOE's budget, but we have a couple pieces of this, as you can see here, including helping develop codes, helping with improvements in school facilities that also allows for electric vehicle and electric buses. And of course, the entire section on that battery manufacturing, recycling, and supply chain work, which is critically important to the EV sector. Finally, clean energy demonstrations is a big new part of the bill. This is $21.5 billion. It's a huge, huge slice of that 62. This is really new for us. These are clean energy demos and research hubs into these technologies that we know are part of the energy future that have not been developed at scale, commercial scale to date, where government has a real role to help de-risk these industries. Clean hydrogen is one a lot of people are watching. We have money to build out a number of hydrogen hubs around the country. That's a competitive process. Carbon capture, direct air capture, and industrial emission reduction is another big category through our fossil energy and carbon management program. And then this is the $2.5 billion for those small modular reactors, that advanced nuclear development. We've started, I'll go back, an entire new office to work on these programs called the Office of Clean Energy Demonstrations. That's part of our new Office of Infrastructure. So I only have a couple more slides. I will say everyone wants to know, when is the money coming out? A couple of really important things to say about the bill. One is most of these programs are on a 5 or 10-year timeline, which is very exciting from sort of a sustainability perspective. This is not a program that's going to go away next year. This is a program that has embedded longer timelines so that states, cities, and territories can figure out how to get these transformative projects out the door. You'll remember with the Recovery Act that there was a real focus on shovel ready and on speed. We're trying really, really hard to get money spent out the door and spent, but make sure that it is creating sustainable, resilient, equitable infrastructure that creates high quality jobs and real economic prosperity in communities. That means stakeholder engagement. That means ensuring that those standards are written in. That's just a very deliberate process. And so we're balancing those things out. And I think it's exciting that it's a longer time frame. The funding is split between formula funding, as I said, and competitive funding. Most of it is competitive. The way that we do competitive funding is we'll put out notice of intent often, and I'll show you in a minute where to find those. We often follow that with what's called a request for information. I highly recommend responding to those requests. That's where you can weigh in and say, hey, we think this approach doesn't make sense. Have you considered these technical issues? Have you considered these communities? We take all of what we hear from the RFI responses, and then we put that into the funding opportunity announcement, which is really where the rubber hits the road and people can apply for the funding. And those are starting to roll out now. We have only put out one funding opportunity announcement to date, and that is for the battery supply chain work, but which just went out. But we're starting to roll these out. And as this says at the last bullet, we're on track to roll about half of our $60 billion in FY22. Michigan has a lot of opportunities here, and we have actually provided a lot of support to Michigan already from the Department of Energy that I just wanted to note, including home energy assistance under the rescue plan, the first of the big, I would frankly call it the first of the big energy bills of this administration. The American Rescue Plan included significant amounts of energy assistance as well as economic development support through the Economic Development Administration, and a lot of that's being used for energy planning. We held a state listening session in February. We have been issuing money through the through our initial weatherization assistance program. We haven't allocated the full new amount yet, but we've been rolling out money through that. The RFI for schools will be out in early April, and I think will be really an interesting place to watch for Michigan, particularly around weatherization, but also EV school bus eligibility. And then the grid resilience RFI coming out in late April, and two new FOAs for battery recycling in May. This is the site to bookmark. Energy.gov/bill has all of the timelines, all of the links to all of the pieces as they come out. There are far more than this. I took this picture like a month ago. So there are far more than this available now. It's very, very exciting to see what's already out and what's coming out every day. We're spending a lot of time on this inside the DOE, as you could imagine. I also want to point you to another really good resource. This is energycommunities.gov. This is a website or a clearinghouse that was put together by the Interagency Working Group on Coal and Power Plant Communities and Economic Revitalization. This is really an interagency group that the president put together to focus on communities that are in transition from either generating or from either extracting or generating fossil energy. So that includes a lot of power plant communities that are transitioning into new types of energy resources or new economic activities. This is an 11 agency working group. We administer it at DOE. I spend most of my time on it. We have put together this clearinghouse that's extremely usable. It doesn't look like a normal government clearinghouse. It's very easy to navigate. And it shows you not only the bill opportunities, but also existing appropriations across those agencies. And I really recommend it because energy communities have an enormous overlap with rural and remote communities, with tribal communities, but also there's just a significant number of power plant communities in Michigan and the surrounding area. These folks, Rose Dottie, I think you may all know, is our regional specialist for Michigan. She is your front door. She is the person who can tell you where to go and how to ask the right questions and who to ask. She is fantastic. You can reach her and all the rest of them with that email address. And that is what I've got. So I think the regional specialists are critical navigators for DOE, though that energycommunities.gov site is really a useful resource. And then of course the DOE website itself. And I think that is what I have. So I'm going to stop presenting and go back to you all.
That's really great, Kate, and really appreciate the thorough overview and then the additional detail in the slides, which we will post on our website as well and make publicly available, or just a great resource. If you have time, we may have a couple of questions for you. And
sure.
Yeah. I guess you mentioned the request for information process, and I guess I'm wondering what you see, to the extent that it's sort of shareable at this point, what are the ones coming up that you might flag that might be particularly relevant for Michigan? And then is there sort of any special, we've we've provided some information on some of these in the past, but anything that you'd recommend in terms of making sure that Michigan voices get heard in that process?
Yeah, that's a great question. I don't have my cheat sheet in front of me on which ones are coming when, and I will say they're coming kind of fast and furious right now. So it's definitely, I do think that the battery information, I think it's not actually the FOA yet. I think it might be the RFI, that the battery information that just came out, and I can look in a second, is a really important one for Michigan. The hydrogen one is already out, was already out and closed. We got over 10,000 pages of responses on that one, amazingly. The direct air capture one is about to come out. So that one I can tell you. Our hydrogen roadmap, actually, the larger hydrogen strategy, will be coming out in early June. And there are so many more. I don't know the timing. Actually, somebody just emailed me that I think one of the transportation ones just came out possibly today. So that is, yes, our notice of intent for the advanced vehicle technology funding came out today. So that's not a request for information, but it is a notice of intent. And so that is worth looking at because it will help start to lay out what the approach is going to be on that advanced vehicle funding. So lots and lots of them. I wish I could tell you more about exactly when they're coming out, but you really do need to kind of monitor that page. In terms of how best to respond, you know, I honestly think they can be a little intimidating. These requests for information, we're trying to make them more readable and we're trying to make them less intimidating, but there's a lot of pages, there's a lot of legal language that has to be in each of them. I'll just encourage everybody that if it's on a subject that you know about and care about, and you have something to say about the way that you think that it will be best developed in Michigan, just send in a response. I mean, it doesn't need to be perfect. It doesn't need to be a legal document. What we need to hear is, here are, you know, considerations you might not have thought of. We have a whole lot of communities that are still using wood heat. Have you thought about that? I mean, I'm just making this up, but we have a number of communities that, you know, are kind of have gravel roads, whatever. I mean, just whatever the things are that you think may not be in the consideration of folks looking at this from a national perspective. That's really important to get into RFI. The other thing that we can do, and this would be something to ask Rosdati about, is that we can set up phone calls to hear input from stakeholder groups if we have a kind of a group of folks who want to do that on a particular provision. So that's another way to respond.
Perfect.
And sorry, that was a long answer, but
a
big question.
Sorry about that, Kate. I don't have any further questions. Thank you for the very thorough presentation, and we certainly want to send this presentation out to our other colleagues and other agencies just to make them aware and make sure that we're all on the same page. You know, this is really a whole of government collaborative effort that we're engaged in to pursue these dollars. And just a personal comment, you know, I was speaking with a former colleague several weeks ago about our past work 15 plus years ago with the Apollo Alliance, and this was the type of investment that was discussed at that time, and that you were really a thought leader around in terms of we need really revolutionary levels of investment, but that investment in clean energy and distributed energy systems and decarbonization needs to be joined alongside the goals of energy justice, on equitable access. And you know, what I'm just really proud and thankful that you're in a leadership position to be able to help to not only develop, but to dispense some of these dollars. But now we are actualizing some of those grand concepts of almost 2 decades ago. And so just really thank you for reaching out and being able to be here with us once again in this really important time. And certainly I think we are all on call whenever you all need insight from the Great Lakes State. We're just excited to get some of these dollars deployed to our communities and do what we can under a really compressed timeline here.
Well, Commissioner Phillips, you warmed my heart by mentioning the Apollo Alliance. Thank you. You are absolutely right. It feels like so many of the great ideas, many of you also were involved in, are kind of coming into reality. So thank you. It is a very, very exciting time. And I think historic, actually, time for these projects. These projects will last for decades when built and will create enormous opportunities. So it's up to all of us to make sure that's done well. So thank you. I really appreciate the comment.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for making time to share your expertise and your passion and hopefully some of those federal dollars with us. This is a great resource and one I think that we'll be going back to over and over again, and can't wait to get back upstairs and bookmark that website. So again, appreciate you joining us.
Thanks, all of you.
All right, we've now reached the time reserved for members of the public to address the commission. As mentioned in the notice for today's meeting, we'll take public comments in the following order. First, individuals attending in person. Next, written comments from individuals using the Microsoft Teams live stream Q&A. Then verbal comments from individuals submitting names in the Q&A feature and who have called into the meeting. And finally, from individuals participating only through the phone option. If anyone attending in person desires to address the commission, please come to the microphone. Another shy group. Okay, we'll now turn to public comments through the remote options. Again, if you would like to make a comment and have access to the Teams live stream Q&A feature on your computer, please enter your name and your comment, which will then be read aloud to the commissioners. This feature is available on the right-hand side of the control bar next to the mute button. As a reminder, the Q&A feature is intended for public comments directed to the commission and not to engage with other participants or respond to their comments. After taking any comments through this feature, we will open up the phone line for those who called into the meeting and would like to address the commission verbally. If you want to be queued up for verbal comments, please enter your name in the live stream Q&A feature and indicate that you wish to make a verbal comment, but please do not include your written comment as this will avoid duplication. I will first call on these names in the order received. After hearing from those individuals listed in the Q&A, we will ask if there are any comments from individuals who are on the phone line but not utilizing the online Q&A feature. Please note that you can only make verbal comments by calling into the meeting. When it is your turn to speak, press *6 on your phone to unmute. And as a reminder, this public comment period is for commissioners to listen to comments and concerns and not to answer specific questions. When providing comment, please indicate your name and where you live if you are willing to share, so we have that for our records, and please limit comments to one per person and keep them brief so that we have a chance to hear from all who would like to comment. Ms. Cole, I believe that you are again helping us in this regard. Do we have any comments that have been entered through the Teams live stream Q&A feature?
We did receive one comment during the previous presentation. It says there was an RFI for energy storage demonstrations that came out this week and a link was provided.
Excellent. That is very helpful. Did we have anybody indicate an interest in providing verbal public comment?
There are no indications of anyone wishing to speak in the Q&A feature at this time.
Okay. We'll now go to the phones directly. If you're joined us by phone and wish to make public comment at this time, you may do so. And again, press *6 to unmute. We'll give it another chance. If you're on the phone and wish to make a public comment, you can do so. *6 to unmute. Okay, we'll close the public comment period. A few announcements before we wrap up today. First, May is Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month, which honors the arrival of the first Japanese people that migrated to the United States back in 1843. It also marks the anniversary of the Transcontinental Railroad's completion, which is celebrated on May 10th, 1869, to honor the Chinese immigrants that laid the tracks. Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders worldwide are an integral and respected part of their communities, making meaningful contributions to academia, business, medicine, law, technology, government, science, and social justice, and that's certainly true here at the Michigan Public Service Commission. Last year on May 18th, Governor Whitmer proclaimed that day as Asian American and Pacific Islanders Day Against Bullying and Hate. It's also the birthday of Vincent Chin, a Highland Park, Michigan resident who was the victim of a hate crime in 1982. And his tragic murder inspired a national Asian American and Pacific Islander activist movement that continues to this day. There are a number of events taking place throughout the state in celebration of Asian American and Pacific Islander Month, and would specifically highlight a virtual celebration taking place this evening from 6:30 to 8:30. That'll feature remarks from Governor Gretchen Whitmer and keynote speeches from national leaders and there's an opportunity to register. You can search Asian Pacific American Heritage Month Day celebration, and there's a link there. May is also Mental Health Awareness Month, which has been observed in May in the United States since 1949. It was started by the Mental Health America organization, which was then known as the National Association for Mental Health. And each year in mid-March, Mental Health America releases a toolkit of materials to guide preparation for outreach activities during Mental Health Awareness Month. During the month of May, Mental Health America and its affiliates and other organizations interested in mental health conduct a number of activities which are based on a different theme each year. This year's theme is Back to Basics. It was chosen for 2022 with the goal of providing foundational knowledge about mental health and information about what people can do if their mental health is cause for concern. And then our final announcement is that we earlier today celebrated our Employee Recognition Awards. It's an annual opportunity to celebrate the many contributions of our staff. We start by celebrating those folks with 5 years of service to the state, and that included among our staff Nick Abraham, Eric Hanser, Kristen Kenyon, Ethan Kramer, Karen Kruger, and Ryan Wilson. For 10 years of service with the state, we recognized Ann Armstrong, Kelly Barber Dodge, Lynn Beck, Taylor Becker, Stephanie Haney, David Isaacson, Amber McGrath, Bob Nichols, Naomi Simpson, Tim Witt, and Tim Wolf. And celebrating 15 years of service with the state were Linda Brauker, Kathy Cole, Roger Doherty, Karen Gould, Jesse Harlow, Jim LePan, Teresa McMillan-Sepkoski, Dolores Midkiff-Powell, Mark Pung, Chuck Putnam, Neri Royale, Jill Rusnak, Barbara Kunkel, thank you for your service, and Stacy Sova. We also, as Commissioner Phillips mentioned earlier in the year, provided some special recognition awards earlier in the meeting, also earlier in the year, I guess, technically, including to Kayla Gibbs of our Resource Optimization and Certification section within the Energy Resources Division, Eric Hanser from our Energy Market section within the Strategic Operations Division, Barry Harmon with the Rates and Financial Analysis section within the Telecommunications Division, and Drew Simon who's with the Compliance and Investigation section within the Customer Assistance Division. And finally, we issued our Employee of the Year Outstanding Service Award to Casey Patrick in our Executive Business section within the Regulatory Affairs Division for her work as a database administrator for e-dockets, designing and creating the new database for the gas pipeline safety work, and orchestrating the migration to MyLogin for the Customer Assistance Division and the Telecommunications Division around customer complaints and inquiries. And then finally, because we always like to have a little fun with this, we had our first ever auction where we auctioned off homemade bread and jam, honey from a backyard apiary, a hand-drawn likeness of Michigan Public Service Commission Chief Operating Officer Mike Byrne. You really do have to see it to believe it. And handmade mittens made of old sweaters with a fleece lining from Executive Secretary Lisa Felice, which, as she noted, made them fleece-lined and Felice-made. All told, we raised more than $500, which will be contributed to one of the Michigan Energy Assistance Program grantees that provide energy assistance to low-income Michiganders. So, and I will tell you, my cheeks hurt from smiling and laughing so much. It's a wonderful organization with a great staff that works every day for the benefit of Michiganders, and we try and celebrate them every day, but we certainly want to make sure that we do it on an annual basis. Any other announcements or comments?
Just one brief comment. Just want to thank you, Chair, for recognizing Asian American Pacific Islander Month, and just say that as a commission body, as well as an organization, we recognize the increased anxieties that many within the Asian American and Pacific Islander population currently are experiencing in relation to increased discrimination and violence that has been experienced for individuals of that community, particularly since the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic. So we just want to say that we recognize that. We are certainly taking steps to better understand how to address instances of discrimination within the Asian American and Pacific Islander community within our organization. And also just ensure that we're creating an environment that's inclusive of all populations and all ethnicities here at the Commission. So I just wanted to make sure to make that particular note, given this time period of increased tensions and unfortunately violence towards the Asian American and Pacific Islander community.
Thank you, Commissioner. Well said. We'll wrap with that. Our next commission meeting is scheduled for Thursday, May 26th, 2022 at 1:00 p.m. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I motion to adjourn today's commission meeting.
I second the motion.
We will now have a vote on the motion to adjourn the meeting. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries by unanimous vote. The meeting is adjourned. Thanks, everybody.